السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان ودعا بدعوتهم إلى يوم الدين، وبعد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يقربنا إليك يا رب العالمين. اللهم افتح لنا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من أن أضل أو أضل، أزل أو أزل، أظلم أو أظلم، أجهل أو يجهل علي. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. Ameen. Honorable, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we begin, as always, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Rabb, our Khaliq, our Malik. We seek His pleasure, we seek His protection. We send our choices, salutations, and salawat upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran kathira. Ameen. Honorable brothers and sisters, with the start of summer, there is an increase of many different activities in communities. Among them is the weddings that, mashallah, we tend to see in the summertime. Not just Muslim community, all communities, they tend to seize this opportunity to organize, engage, and settle themselves through this very bond of marriage. Hence, we see an increase of that in the summer months, and our community is not immune from that. So we pray that those of the brothers and sisters who got married, may Allah bless their weddings, may Allah bless their union. And those who are in preparation and planning for that, may Allah facilitate ease and provide khair for them. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, as our deen, one of the very distinct and distinguishing characteristic of our deen is it guides the believers in each and every step of their life. And as much as there is ample guidance and teachings that we find in Quran and Hadith and in the massive corpus of fiqh regarding our prayer, regarding fasting and zakat and hajj, likewise there are chapters after chapters dedicated in Hadith and also in books of fiqh discussing and explaining the rules of marriage, responsibilities of marriage, the objective and the very legal standard of marriage. So this is for the purpose that we as Muslims navigate through this particular aspect and phase of our life in light of the teachings of Islam. Right through, not just because generally people, they seek the guidance of ulama and scholars when they encounter any situation and problem, marital conflict, for example, and things of this nature. But what we learn is that the blessings of marriage, the flourishment and the success of marriage depends a lot before than that, which is how a person prepares himself and what is the criteria of selection of spouse and how they conduct the marriage. All of these are part and parcel of that. Therefore, in one incident we find that Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, a young man, his father, of course, they had some issue between the two, the father and the son. So the father complained to the Khalifa that my son is not being very responsible and not being very obedient to me. And subhanAllah, the complaint as it was brought to the court of justice of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, so he summoned his son to be brought and to be present in the court and in the presence of Khalifatul Muslimin. So when he was brought, he repeated the concern that his father shared with the Amir al-Mu'mineen. And when he heard those concerns, then he asked him to verify all what your fathers say, is that true? So he said, yes, I acknowledge that what he is saying is true, but there is more to the story. There is more to the story, because generally human beings tend to be very biased whenever they narrate the concerns. They only want to share from their side of the story, not necessarily highlighting the issues they also have contributed to that. And therefore, when Umar radiallahu anhu asked him to share his side of the story, he said, the outcome of this whole issue, what my father said is true, but it was him who set the stage for me to be in this manner. It was him who set the stage for me to react and act and behave in this manner. So he asked him, what do you mean by that? He said, the things that my father did to me wrong was that first and foremost, he did not choose a right mother for me. Look at the complaint that the son is raising to the Khalifatul Muslimin. So that he said, my father did not choose a right mother for me to really discipline me and give me the tarbiyat that was necessary. And he did not give me the good name. And as a result of that, I started to deviate and go off the track. So Umar radiallahu anhu, when he heard this, then he turned to the father, he said, now you have no reason to complain for what your son has done to you, because you are the one who have done dhulm to him in the first place. Because choosing the right partner plays a big role in the establishment of relationship and in raising the families according to their standards. So this is one story that tells us a lot, speaks volumes on the topic. So therefore, it starts from way before than the person actually is getting married. So what I wanted to focus on today, the one thing that is, of course, this topic of marriage is very broad and vast. A lot could be talked about. But few things that I want to remind all of us present here, especially those who are yet to get married and those who are in the preparation of that. And those who got married, if things have been done differently, then we make istighfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the wrong things that we did, asking Allah to forgive and move on with the right intention and setting the proper goals before us. So, as we know that there are ample teachings in Islam governing this aspect of our life right through, so the focus that we generally tend to have a lot on is actually the preparation of marriage and the wedding itself. What comes after, there is no preparation for that. There is no education being given and done for the couple, and how to navigate through the challenges of life. So that is a very lengthy session that there has been a number of, mashallah, workshops done, and I would encourage whenever that takes place, we should take part to benefit from that. But the actual wedding itself sets a precedence for the person to receive or deprive himself of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my dear brothers and sisters, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we know, performed multiple marriages. One of the beauty and benefit that we get out of that is to learn how should we conduct our marriages. How should we conduct our marriages? That is the purpose of it. And therefore, you can find numerous narrations along with the proper guidelines and practical examples from our Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. For example, there is one hadith in number of books of hadith that we find. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "A'zamu an-nikahi barakatan aysaruhu ma'una." And the marriage that retains incurs the maximum blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that incurs the least cost in that. And in another narration, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best marriage is the one that is the easiest one. The best marriage is the one that is the easiest one. What does that mean? It means that the more we, in one narration, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that make marriage as simple as possible, so that the committing of zina becomes more difficult for people. So our society has treated this differently. Muslims and non-Muslims, unfortunately, are alike in this regard by and large. We have complicated the process of nikah and the criteria of selection, the high expectations, whether it is for to select the partner or the very expenses of the wedding. You know, I have come across some examples which was very sad to me, that just over the issue of the expenses of wedding, you know, the family got into the altercation, and then the very proposal they both had accepted was dissolved, just because of the cost, who should bear it, to what extent they should contribute to that. So things of this nature are becoming common in our community. And therefore, what we need at this point in time is to revisit the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the seerah and understand the very settings that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has introduced to us. And therefore, this hadith is very paramount and of great importance, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when a person performs nikah or is intending to get married, what is the goal? The goal is that they live in tranquility under the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the way to go about is to simplify the procedure of marriage and to make it as simple as possible. And therefore, Rasulullah said, the best way to do so is also, he said, أَعْلِنُ النِّكَاحَ وَجَعَلُهُ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. You know, publicize the marriage and do it in the masajid. Because, you know, masjid, there could not be any place better than the masjid to start your, union. Because masjid is the place of angels, is the place of ibadat, it's a place that attracts the rahmah. Then, there are some places that attracts the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 24/7, without a break. Ka'batullah is number one. And after Ka'batullah is all the masajid, the houses of worship, that constantly the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. And it attracts the malaika and angel of khair. So when you will surround yourself, being in that environment of blessings, you are going to retain some of it at least in your life. And it will teach us to make it as simple as possible, because generally when we know if the nikah is to take place in the masjid, we will come prepared accordingly. Versus if you were to be told that, nikah is being done in the marriage hall or in a banquet hall, then the whole setup gives a lot more excuses for people to dress up differently and behave differently, even to miss prayer. There are people that say, because there was issues, I could not pray. But when you are in the masjid, even you did not have the intention to pray because of the environment that you find yourselves in, you perform salat. So because of reasons like this, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged that, we perform nikah in the masjid. And looking at some of the examples in the seerah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see how simplistically our Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam did, his nikah, whether it was Khadija al-Kubra radiyallahu anha, or whether it was Aisha radiyallahu anha, whether it was Maymuna radiyallahu anha, and any other azwaj mutahharat, the noble consorts of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you read the very descriptions of the nikah of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then you will be amazed how simplistically it was done. Khadija radiallahu anha, because the nikah between Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and Khadija radiallahu anha, it was done before the advent of Islam. Right? And all the other nikah, they were done after. There is one thing that we learn, by and large, societies, they used to be very simple back in those days. And therefore, when the proposal was presented to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he accepted it, so a few people, they went, Abu Talib and Hamza, both of them, radiallahu anh, they went to the house of the bride and there was Khutbah nikah performed by Abu Talib for Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And meher was decided and disclosed and paid, and that was it. And this was the gathering of nikah. It was done and over. And when Maymuna radiallahu anha, her nikah with Prophet ﷺ was done while Rasul ﷺ was in a journey. It was the 7th Hijri that Prophet ﷺ had gone to Makkah al-Mukarramah to perform Umratul Qada. And on the way back, he performed nikah. And he consummated the relationship, and even walima was done. All of it was done during his travel. This is another example. And many of the individuals, they talk about the nikah of Fatima radiallahu anha. And what we also forget in this regard, how this whole process unfolded itself. First, Rasulullah when he received the proposal from Ali radiallahu anhu, he accepted. Then he asked him, what do you have to give in mahr? He said, Ya Rasulullah, other than this, I don't really have. It was one armor. So Prophet said, okay, this is good enough. What else have you prepared for your marital life? He said, I just have these two things. So Prophet advised that you sell this one and make the arrangements for to start your new life. So and in lieu of that, Prophet provided a bed and a few other things, the utensils, and a house was arranged for them, and then they started their new life. So these examples, they show to us the very nature of the nikah of the Sahaba and Sahabiyat and our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now compare that to the type of marriages that take place in our societies. I'm not talking about just here. Globally, it is very rare to see the amplification of the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this regard. All of us, we hear this hadith whether it was our own nikah or somebody else's nikah, an-nikahu min sunnati. So it is part and parcel that, when you say that I'm performing my nikah to follow the footsteps of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is not just the wedding itself. So what is interesting, you are saying that I'm following the footsteps of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in my nikah, but your very nikah is violating all the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right through, from the selection to the preparation to the occasion and the life afterwards. So in what sense are we saying that, I'm following the footsteps of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because when you believe that an-nikah min sunnati is because nikah is the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and also all the anbiya previously. So what is there for us to really say that this part I have secured in my marriage, other than just the ijab and qabul, that's it. So there is really nothing. And therefore, no doubt that we run into issues and problems as we see. And that is the reality then. So that is very important that we understand the seriousness of this matter. Rasulullah said that أَعْظَمُ النِّكَاحِ بَرَكَةً أَيْسَرُهُ مَؤُونًا. The way to preserve maximum blessings of Allah in your marriage is to simplify your marriage and conduct it as simplistically as possible. What is the mafhum al-mukhalafa? This is something that we have in our deen. To look at the text from the opposite end, which means the way to lose all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your marriage is to make your marriage as complicated as you want. This is the mafhum al-mukhalafa. If you make your marriage and the wedding and the occasion all as complicated, as expensive, as lavish as possible, then you are making sure that you want to lose all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple as that, because this is the mafhum al-mukhalafa of this hadith. And therefore, if we are sincere, as we all are sincere in that sense, but the way to secure that is this. And I will end this one post that I came across a few days ago, subhanAllah. You see, when you set examples like this, it really serves in the best interest of all. A few days ago, there was a wedding in New York, and in that wedding, subhanAllah, the person who attended, he wrote this post. I'm writing this so that, our community could think about this. Said, I went to attend this wedding, and it wasn't in a masjid, it was in a marriage hall, but the very setting was that I felt there was no difference between masjid and that hall. And he meant by the very setup, the segregation. And when the time of Salat al-Maghrib came, there was an azan called. Bride and groom and everyone, they prayed together. And then the way, and then there was azan, and then salat, and there was of course khutbatul nikah, and then there was a speech after that. And then the way food was served and the socialization, it was so serene, and it was so peaceful, it was so Islamic. He said, within 2 hours time, because, I have seen this in a negative sense, of course, the type of example that we set before others, non-Muslims, about our own religion is really pathetic and sad to see. I said, with this type of music, this type of lavish lifestyle, with this type of dance and all of that, what type of message do you want to give to these non-Muslims who are serving in this hall? Right? So, but in that place, when this setup was, mashallah, so Islamic, so in 2 hours time, he said, there were 2 waitresses who were serving and who were, in the preparation. So they came and they accepted Islam. They were so impressed to see the setup of the marriage. Just 2 individuals, they came and they accepted Shahada. So this shows that even though this was not intended to invite anyone to Islam, there was no speech to explain the beauty of Islam. Right? So, but because Islam in itself has a natural charismatic effect on the hearts and minds of people, provided we present it to them in that manner. And therefore, the bottom line is that these 3 things we need to understand. Number 1, our Rasul ﷺ himself has encouraged us to follow his footsteps in marriages the way he has set the example before us. Number 2, the way to go about is to simplify the marriage. Number 3, when in these societies, especially when things are going completely off the track, it is a kind of, fardh kifaya on us that, we strike a balance in this regard to give the beautiful example, the best example possible through our lives and through our conduct. We hope and pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand the beautiful teachings of Islam and incorporate in our lives accordingly. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayh. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Respected brothers and sisters, I would like to announce following on behalf of the management that Alhamdulillah, the management is about to start the renovation of the kitchen underneath of the house behind the masjid. So they are looking for somebody who is in the construction to help them out for the project, and also any type of, inshallah, the help that they can do. Of course, it will be a paid job, and inshallah, they will be compensated for their services. But we are looking for somebody from our community who can, inshallah, help them for the renovation project. So if there is anyone in your midst, whether you yourself or your friend that you know, please do contact the management in this regard. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your help. Jazakallah khair.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا